Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Stable, our Established Facts Wrestling podcast. I believe this is episode 4.
We're already up to 4.
Yeah, that's it right
The real
there.
fans will know.
That's right. If you know, you know. If you don't, it's all right.
You'll figure it out.
So, as we hinted on our last episode, because we were talking about Double or Nothing,
Great show.
a review for Double or Nothing. It was an hour-long review of Double or Nothing, but that's okay. It was worth it.
It was.
It was a really fun show, and the aftermath has been really fun to watch as well.
Yes.
Yep.
So that's been a lot of fun. We want to talk a little bit about some of the more current news that's not necessarily connected with any pay-per-views or specific content. Mainly, to just bring up the elephant in the room, the fact that there have been quite a few releases of some of our favorite talent, and even if they weren't our favorite, just some releases that didn't make a whole lot of sense. And so we'll definitely get into kind of talking about some of that. And I know that at this point, because it's towards the end of June, beginning of July, it's month-old news for a lot of them, more.
And a good portion of them are getting ready to come up on their 90-day no-compete.
Goodness.
Yes, they are.
Thank goodness. So
July 14th, I think, was the day I was told
Not
that I
we're
saw.
counting the days, but
yeah,
Only a couple days
Yeah.
before Slammiversary.
I'm just saying it's gonna be good stuff. So without further ado, we can talk a little bit about some of the more recent WWE releases, as well as some other releases that maybe you guys did not know about or were not as in the headlines.
So just a real quick thing, though. We did review AEW's Double or Nothing. I can tell you as a podcast, we're not going to review every show.
Right.
Yes, WWE's Hell in a Cell pay-per-view did just happen. Mm-hmm. We're not going to review it because
it was a lot of fun.
What we did watch of. Did you watch it?
I watched some of it. I didn't get a chance to watch all of it.
I watched parts of it too, but frankly, the match I cared about was on SmackDown.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Which I thought that was an interesting, not to deviate too far, but I thought that was an interesting choice that they went for a Hell in a Cell match on SmackDown, and then they did 2 on the pay-per-view.
Yep, and then they did one on Raw.
Did one on Raw. And I didn't necessarily understand why, because I feel like if you're going to have a pay-per-view that's called Hell in a Cell, it almost makes more sense to do all 4 of them on the same pay-per-view.
Well, 3 of them were supposed to be, and they moved Reigns and Ray to SmackDown.
Right.
The Xavier Woods and Bobby Lashley, I'm pretty sure, was just a way to appease the USA.
Yeah, which
I think.
That was a really good match.
Yeah.
I really love watching Xavier Woods
Which
work.
is amazing because both Hell in a Cell matches, again, not reviewing the show, Bayley, Bianca Belair, take your time, watch that. Very good Hell in a Cell match.
I think that was the best Hell in the Cell match, and I know you guys might disagree with me, but I think it was the best because the creativity with the hair. I mean, they're both great wrestlers.
Right. But the reason I brought that up, we're not going to review every show because we're not going to be able to watch every show.
Right.
And if you want to see a review of a show, check out Simon Miller's Ups and Downs on What Culture Wrestling. I know we keep mentioning them, and we don't work with them at all.
No.
But
even a little.
we're going to do our reviews.
But we would love to.
But he does
You're
them all.
always
We
open.
would love to.
So,
But can I ask a question?
Yes.
Have they done too much Hell in a Cell? I thought the whole point of Hell in a Cell was that it was supposed to be like the getting to the top of the mountain, and we're going to have a brutal, bloody, beat the tar out of you, and we're going to do it, and then we do it again, and then we do it again, and then we do it again, and then we it feels like we're beating Hell in a Cell to death.
Well, Hell in a Cell, for the most part right now, only happens at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, which would be fine.
Except it didn't.
No, I know. But it did happen around that pay-per-view. It happened to SmackDown before and to Raw after. So it's not like they just like threw it out there on a random Wednesday or something. There's that. A whole conversation can come around the Hell in a Cell. But the Hell in a Cell was designed as the end of a feud.
Yes.
Shawn Michaels and Undertaker. Undertaker and Mankind. Undertaker and Triple H.
Yes.
The Triple H and Shawn Michaels. Like it was
Undertaker and Big Boss Man.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That one was insane.
So that's what it was originally meant to, but it became an attraction, and they
just like Elimination Chamber.
Yes.
The difference with Elimination Chamber is that one has a direct
effect on WrestleMania,
on what's going to happen in WrestleMania. Yeah.
So that's again conversation for another day. But the general comment is, maybe they're using Hell in a Cell too much.
Yeah. And I think that can be. I think that's a great topic for another discussion about what is too much of a good thing. When do you start getting? I don't remember the exact phrase, but when do you start getting less of a return?
It's the law of diminishing returns.
The law of diminishing returns. When does that start to kick in?
Yeah.
One thing that we all kind of see is, which I thought they did it really well, which I agree. With some of the other show reviewers, with Seth Rollins rolling up Cesaro for a heel. And the match that they put on, I thought that was gorgeous.
You mean the most devastating move in all?
I thought it was gorgeous.
Sports entertainment?
Because in the same respect, the Young Bucks did the same kind of thing. But I feel like when you set something like that up, it's fantastic. When you use it as your default setting, it's just
a cradle. It's a cradle wrestling hold.
Stay tuned for another episode related to too much of a good thing. That said, this conversation's about too much of a bad thing.
Yeah, which definitely is the most recent releases, mainly WWE releases. So I have the list.
You have the list?
I have the list.
Have
Not
they
that
made
list.
the list?
It could
Not
be that list.
Chris Jericho had a list. All I'm saying.
Right. So I'll get into some other details here in a minute, but I'm gonna read it off my phone because there were far too many names for me to try and remember or write down.
A lot of names on there. Okay.
So
here we go.
Just in general, overall, 27 wrestlers, because it was 28. But then Triple H made a fantastic move in putting Samoa Joe on NXT, and he has been killing it.
Because Triple H is smart.
Not mad at him at all for that.
And Samoa Joe is incredible.
Yes.
So, and him working with Regal and all that. I mean, incredible. Good stuff.
Very good stuff.
I'm glad that he is back and he is working on the NXT brand, because I think that is...
It's a great spot for him.
That's where he fits.
Yeah.
That's where Balor fits. Those guys just make it work. So, very quickly, I'm just going to run down the list. We can kind of cherry pick later on some of the ones that we don't necessarily wholeheartedly agree with, or some of the ones that we're like, you know what, that's not actually a bad idea, especially considering the first one. Lars Sullivan, Steve, Steve Coulter, excuse me, Paul White, a.k.a. The Big Show, Andrade, Mojo Rawley, Wesley Blake, Bo Dallas, Kalisto, Tucker, Chelsea Green, Mickie James, Peyton Royce, Billy Kay, Daniel Bryan, Kavita Devi or Dalal, that's her actual last name, Alexander Wolf, Ezra Judge, Skylar Story, Vanessa Bourne, Jessamine Duke, Velveteen Dream, Santana Garrett, Buddy Murphy, Lana, Ruby Riott, Aleister Black, and Braun Strowman. And that's just wrestlers.
Oh, yeah.
Because there is a list of probably... I'm using the website itnwwe.com. If you are looking for a reference, all of these are on here as well. But, I mean, they have just kind of estimating almost 20 names of people that work in the backstage or were VPs of certain things. Like, their VP of media operations fired. Like, manager of publicity and corporate communications gone. Like, there are a ton of cuts that they made.
No one actually is talking in corporate.
Yeah.
And that actually explains a lot.
Yeah.
Now I understand
Absolutely.
your problem. You need to get your VP back of corporate communication.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how mad I am. I can't even say it. Corporate communication.
Right. So, not saying that they are the only show in town that has released people. AEW over the last year has also had some releases, but compared to 27 wrestlers, superstars, if you will, and about 20 or so people in the back, they've had 5.
The majority of the releases in AEW have been contracts have expired and not renewed.
Right, exactly.
That's
Which there are a couple,
difference.
like Daniel Bryan. Daniel
Yes.
Bryan's
Yes.
contract expired.
Right.
There are a few that have had their contract expired and just have not renewed, whether it be by their own personal choice
Or the companies.
Or the companies. But by and large, a lot of the people that have been released from WWE, especially, are people that were released,
accordingly
for budget cuts, which is very strange because, as the topic stands, WWE is looking at some of the highest profits they've ever made. They haven't had to spend money on touring. They are, I know that there are some rumors going around that Vince may be trying to set things up to sell the company. I'm not going to buy into those rumors because I feel like, personally, unless I see some evidence outside of that, I feel like Vince really enjoys the control of doing what he's doing.
What's he going to do with himself once WWE, if it sells? I cannot imagine.
I don't know.
He'd die. I don't know what else he would do.
Try a third attempt. Maybe try and buy the rights from The Rock for the XFL again one more time.
Don't do it, Rock. Don't sell it back.
I don't know.
Don't.
But it's just insane to me. And really, the reason why I got so passionate about it, there are guys on, guys like Lars Sullivan, who reportedly not the greatest guy in the back. Didn't make a lot of friends, which I feel like in the wrestling world, not a good idea.
No. And he had a history of controversial statements and media appearances.
Yeah, not necessarily the best guy to have in your business. I'm not going to dispute that.
Sure, and the people that weren't doing anything, like they weren't doing anything.
Bo Dallas is on the roster. Like, the fact that he got released, I didn't even realize that he was still current.
Right, and that was probably better for him.
Right, 100%, because he's going to have better opportunities come around, and he's not a guy who was sitting on the shelf because he was injured. He's a guy who they just didn't have a storyline for, and so they released him. Those kind of make sense.
Andrade was another one.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it was silly to let Andrade go because that's a talent that they should have had something to do.
Yes.
But he wasn't doing anything, so letting him go, okay, that kind of makes sense.
Right. The ones that make zero sense, and probably everybody's talking about them, Billy Kay, which anyone and everyone on this podcast and the Established Facts podcast, if you have ever been in a room when the Iconics have been on the screen, and I am there. They are my second favorite tag team, period. My first favorite tag team, the Riot Squad.
The Riot Squad, which, again.
Yeah. And then outside of that, like, there are lots of... The New Day. They're one of my favorite.
You did specifically mention Billy Kay. I'm assuming you also mean Peyton Royce.
So the thing is, I agree with you, yes. Peyton Royce as well, but Peyton Royce, again, she had suffered some injuries, I think... At the end of 2019 or
Peyton Royce got paired up with Women's Right. What in the world is her name?
Lacey Evans.
Lacey Evans. And then Lacey got pregnant.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then they paired her up with somebody else.
But they broke up the Iconics.
They broke, really
absolutely. The dumb thing for them to do.
But Billy Kay went and made a whole name for herself.
Her
resume
shtick, that especially like the times that she worked with somebody, when she worked with the Riot Squad and then they won and she lost her mind. I'm like, how is this not selling?
Yeah.
How long do you have Santino Marella on the roster who all he does is walk around with a snake sock in his singlet and that's his whole shtick?
Yeah.
And he does really goofy things. And then you have somebody like Peyton Royce, somebody like Billy Kay, who is just, I kid you not, every time she was on the screen, I was cracking up because she was just insane. Like, her character was so funny. And then to find out, like, later on, sure, budget cuts, but then rumor is that, is it Kevin Dunn? Is that his, what's the guy's
Kevin
name?
Dunn's the executive producer.
That he just didn't get her shtick.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? What is there not to get?
Well, especially since they're doing so many, or attempting to do so many comedy skits with like Shayna Baszler and Alexa Bliss. I'm like, you just let go, you top comedian from SmackDown,
100%,
and you could have done comedy bits with her, and she would have had.
She was actually funny.
She was actually.
Guess
funny.
what?
Yeah.
The Alexa Bliss, Shayna Baszler thing is not funny. It is so dumb.
that is definitely...
But that's my personal opinion, and that is not the statement of the stable in general.
No,
I personally...
it is 100%. At this point, it is 100%.
Yeah. We love Alexa Bliss. We love Shayna Baszler.
Yes.
I think
Both of them are incredible.
Shayna Baszler running away from a doll when she could probably kill everyone on the roster as an MMA fighter.
Legitimately.
I'm done. You just need to be done.
Just like you mentioned, Jessamine Duke. Like, talk about a failed opportunity between the Four Horsemen and the Four Horsewomen and the Four Horsewomen. Man,
Yeah.
That whole, because I think they let them all go, but Shayna, because
Devi also, Devi is one of the four horsewomen of MMA.
Yeah, because
Ronda Rousey, Jessamine Duke, Shayna Baszler, and Devi are all, they were considered the four horsewomen of MMA. And when they all started in NXT, the first thing I said to Josh was, you have the four horsewomen of wrestling, which I believe is Charlotte, Bayley, Sasha, and
Becky.
That's right. Against the four horsewomen of MMA, that is a Survivor Series match that writes itself. You need 2 weeks of hype on that match and throw them on Survivor Series, and it's
just watch
money.
What happens.
Yeah.
Money.
I mean, you do the Survivor Series match, and then between that point and WrestleMania,
you have 4 individual storylines or 2 tag team storylines or
your
stable
options are
against
literally
stable.
endless.
It's insane.
I mean, you
It's
literally
insane.
have every option under the planet.
It reminds me, that one reminds me of when CM Punk and Chris Jericho
It was not
were
Farley.
the best in the world at what they did, and they went back and forth about being the best in the world.
absolutely.
But-
I think your statement about Billy Kay was certainly a surprise.
Yeah.
And
Made me
to also
so
let
mad.
Peyton Royce go
Yeah.
was like, if you were just going to let him go at the same time, why did you break him up in the first
That's
place?
exactly
right.
it.
Because the conversation was something along the line, like Peyton Royce was supposed to be set off as a single star, which she absolutely could be a single star.
She's fantastic.
Yeah, I don't no doubt about that. Billie Kay was proving herself, as a mid to low card, which is fine. Everyone needs to be in their place. But then just to take Peyton and put her in another tag team on another show,
Right.
what? Okay, if there's one silver lining out of the Peyton Royce thing being let go, is that when her non-compete is up, she will probably land in either AEW or Impact, most likely AEW because her fiance Sean Spears is there.
Husband.
Are they married?
Husband.
That's right, they're married. I'm sorry.
They
Yeah.
got married.
I think
sorry.
they got last year.
Something.
I think they
Okay,
got
sure.
last year before.
And
2020
same thing with
happened, it
Lana.
all blurred together.
Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Miro
It's
is
kind of
on a
obvious.
tear.
He
And
is.
to get Lana
He
back,
is.
He looks amazing on
Yeah.
AEW.
Lana-
Miro Day. Miro Day.
And the great thing is
love
with
it.
the way that they've built him, she doesn't have to say anything.
no.
She can literally be eye candy right now because
Yeah.
it literally is just like
Yeah.
my husband, the destroyer
Oh
of
my
worlds.
gosh.
I mean, it's great.
So that brings up Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green's a similar thing because
Yeah.
Matt Cardona is in Impact Wrestling right
Yeah.
now.
Yep.
A
Yeah.
former Zack Ryder for those who don't
Yeah.
know. And
Yeah.
Chelsea Green was going to be like a next level star on SmackDown. She had made a name for herself in NXT. She came back to SmackDown and broke her wrist the first night, but got
Yeah.
all healed up and was ready to come
Ready to
back.
go.
Yeah.
And like the week before or the week she was due back at SmackDown, they let her go.
Yeah.
I'm the only again, I'm going to find the silver lining in it when possible is that she can go and be with her fiance, soon to be husband, because
Yeah,
they're
that'd be
getting married
great.
this year.
Yeah, to go seeing him.
Yeah.
Right.
Impact,
So,
yeah.
thumbs up there. Peyton Royce was I think, in the crowd at Double or Nothing. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
But
But then you have people like
Aleister Black
Aleister Black,
What?
Ruby Riott, and Braun Strowman.
and Braun Strowman.
Yeah.
So,
Because I can even excuse somebody like, first of all, a guy like Buddy Murphy, how you release that guy is insane. Because that guy is, first of all, he wasn't hurt. Second of
No.
all, he's incredible in the ring.
he did what you asked of him.
Right. And the fact that they got rid of him as like Seth's disciple, I felt like was a real like kick in the pants for that storyline because I thought it was great. I thought it was really good and fine if you're going to turn him face, let him go toe to toe with Seth a few times. Like
Yeah. Be a nice little
not to
push
say
for him.
not to take
go,
anything away from him and Cesaro because
No,
I'll
no.
take that every day of the week
yeah.
and twice on
I
Sunday.
mean, if you're
but
not going to put a title on Cesaro, you might as well put him against
just
Seth
do
Rollins.
it. Do
Yes,
it.
and they'll both look fantastic. And but
But yeah, I mean, Ruby Riott
what
is in
I just what?
the women's tag team gauntlet at
What?
WrestleMania Night
What?
1
And
and gets
what?
all the way to the finals and loses to the new women's tag team champions.
Which I'm okay.
Fantastic.
I got no problem with Tamina and Natty.
Tamina and Natty.
Good
Yep.
for them.
But
You made the Riot Squad looked incredible that
Yes,
night,
they did.
and now there's no Riot Squad.
yeah,
I
And then
wish
a
they
month-
were
Literally
the best.
blew
a
it
month
up.
and a half later, they're gone.
You literally blew it up.
Well,
I
and
mean,
that's the Braun Strowman thing for me.
Yeah.
as many things, Braun Strowman, particularly over the last 3 or 4 years, as they have transitioned him into this full-on monster among men, to have him in one of your main matches against Shane McMahon at WrestleMania, and then to have him in the main event at WrestleMania Backlash, and then 3 weeks later he's gone.
Yeah,
and they say they don't have a story for him.
It makes.
I could write a story for him.
You don't need a story for a guy like Braun.
No,
you let him be Braun Strowman, and you let him. I mean, I think it was 2 years ago at Elimination Chamber. They didn't have a story for him other than the fact that he was running through dudes.
Yeah,
he eliminated everyone.
That's a story.
Everyone but Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
But Roman Reigns is going to be your top guy. That makes sense.
Right.
That follows. So then I think the question then comes, then why isn't there a story?
Well, didn't they have a whole storyline start out with him and Bobby and Drew?
That was it. They were the triple threat.
Yeah.
But
that was it.
I love how I'm going to say this, but you can only do that match so many times. Right. Apparently, you can do Drew McIntyre or Bobby Lashley 5 times.
500 times.
No, it's 97,842, right? I think so.
I love both Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre.
Yes.
But I will be so mad. I was extremely surprised and pleasantly so that Bobby Lashley won the title. And then that he held the title at Mania against Drew.
Yeah.
I was like, this is incredible. Keep that title on him for forever. And now find something else to do with Drew.
Please.
And then they're like, well, Backlash, Drew again. Okay, Hell in a Cell, Drew again. Can we not have Drew win the Money in the Bank, please?
Please.
Well,
not that I don't love Drew McIntyre, but you got to come up with something good. You fire Drew McIntyre, I will come through that camera. You got to have something better to do with him than just repeat the same story.
He's not going nowhere.
Yeah, he ain't going nowhere.
Well,
even if he wins Money in the Bank, though, he'll cash it. He'll cash that in on Reigns.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Really? You think he's going to go?
Again,
really?
we digress.
Yeah.
Braun Strowman, Aleister Black, Ruby Riott.
Yeah. That's
why don't they have the story? So that the line of we have a story does not hold any water. Why not?
Yeah.
You just had him in matches.
Yeah.
Literally 3 weeks ago. So to me, that's either a flat out bald-faced lie, or they are all dumb, which I don't think so, or Vince is senile.
No, well, the other Braun Strowman had a significantly higher contract than a lot of the superstars that were released.
It was a 7-figure contract.
Yeah, I believe so.
Then write more stories for him.
But if Braun
but he didn't have a clause in his contract that prevented him from being released.
Right. If Braun is not being set up to be in the main event straight, like even if they have storylines for him, but they're not main event, and they are trying to make cuts so they can go back out on the road because it costs to go on the road, releasing Braun in hopes to get him to come back under a lower contract, which would still probably be higher than what AEW could offer, financially makes sense. It just to use it as purely budget cuts,
right?
It's silly. The fact that it was just budget, it was budget cuts, and we didn't have anything for him.
To use a release as a negotiating tactic is kind of underhanded and dirty, but
it's absolutely dirty.
But it definitely works.
Yeah.
Like when you're looking at the beast in the face, it works because what it does is it says, I mean, we can release you, and it also teaches him, hey, if you're going to negotiate for a really nice.
If you're trying to look up if it's legal.
Oh no,
okay, because it totally is.
Well, it's legal. It's legal because WWE owns the contract.
It's a. I can't use the word on the camera. It's a move, but no, it's legal.
Yeah,
My question was going to be
It's a jerk move.
It's a jerk move. My question is more going to be, how much is WWE worth? How many billion?
It's billions.
Okay, so we went from let's give him a $1.3 million contract.
Maybe.
Sure, maybe. We're going to give him we'll give him this time maybe a $600,000 contract. I'm totally making numbers up. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So now how many billion-dollar company has saved $700,000?
Well, and that's my
and I was getting ready to do some math to figure out how tiny a percentage this is.
I mean, that's my overall gripe about
Are they a $10 billion company?
All of the cuts. That's my gripe about all of the cuts, because all of the cuts, some of the cuts make sense. Some of the cuts I'm kind of indifferent about. And then some of the cuts make absolutely no kind of sense.
Cutting Aleister Black 4 days after he was just on SmackDown?
Yeah, and the fact that he has an active storyline. Yeah. Like, not only can you not say that he was on the bench, not only can you not say that he didn't have a story, But it's like you were actively pushing him in his story to do something more, put him on SmackDown, and then 4 days later you released him. And then, from what I've understood, the rumor is that now Vince is not okay with the fact that Aleister is no longer on the roster and are trying to negotiate to get him back, which
Remember
I'm
that
like,
VP of corporate communications?
Yeah.
Pretty sure someone needs to get hired.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a job. No, actually, I'm not looking for a job at all. He's looking for a job. He'd hire on with you real quick.
I would do it. But
he communicates really well.
But I'm looking at it going, if I was Aleister, I'd hold out.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
like after you pulled that kind of stuff.
And B, it's like, I would also use this as a lesson to say, do you want to continue to operate in this manner with a company that you know is willing to do what they feel like is necessary for whatever their potential gain might be?
Tommy End or Aleister Black will go to either AEW or New Japan, possibly Impact.
Yeah, I would love to see him in New Japan. Yeah, I think he would destroy it,
I'm
especially with
sure.
Ospreay being out right now. Like, I think having another guy that's obviously different, but having somebody like Aleister in a New Japan.
But if Thea
cool.
or Zelina, however you know, or Thea Trinidad, Zelina Vega is still in the States, he'll probably look for a stateside job.
Yeah.
But he has been interviewed at least since then and commented that he basically had a 2-year slow death of the character of Aleister Black.
Yeah.
And they didn't use him. He finally reinvented himself. They brought him back to TV. They let him go. They can be mad all they want.
So it's poor story writing again.
Yeah.
Well, for him, I think it was. Somebody like Samoa Joe, who, if the information that says he wasn't cleared physically to wrestle is true, or if it's not, and they let him go because they weren't really doing anything with him, and Triple H went, look, fine, you can't pay him as much, but you need to pay him and bring him back to NXT. I'll do something with him.
Well, because if that dude goes, I'm sorry, there are a lot of people that are Samoa Joe fans that are also currently WWE fans that are no longer going to be WWE fans because they're going to follow Samoa Joe.
Yep. Yeah, they will. Yeah. It would have been a similar thing that whatever fan base that AJ Styles and Samoa Joe brought with them would. That's a different fan base, to say the least.
That's more than just your normal wrestling fan. Yeah. That's a wrestling nerd right there. That's somebody who just dives into it.
It's also why Impact gained some
I don't know anybody like that.
Right?
Nope.
Impact Wrestling
as we talked to a camera about this.
Gained fans when they got the Good Brothers. And because of the similar situation that the New Japan fan base that followed them to WWE may have stuck around to WWE, but they certainly followed them to Impact if they could. Access TV is not always available, but if you don't have Access TV, Impact is on Twitch, by the way, and a lot of people don't know that. So
there you go.
Which is interesting because they literally broadcast their live show on Twitch because Access is not in enough in enough markets. So I think Aleister Black will land. Braun Strowman's gonna ask for and deserve a pretty hefty contract, but apparently he's friends with Mark Henry, and Mark Henry's now in AEW. So who else?
That's him and Big Show going over to AEW. That's huge.
Paul White left for the same reason Jim Ross left. He was like, my contract is up. You guys aren't going to do anything with me. I'm going to go somewhere that will. Jim Ross was offered the contract for AEW, went to WWE and said, I'm willing to come back if I can announce. And they said, we don't have an announcing position for him. And he went to AEW. There are guys that will not go back to WWE if they do not have work for them. There are other guys that will just be like, I'm going to sit at home and get paid a bunch of money. And you know what? I can't blame you for that. You got to take care of your family, take care of you. I mean, I don't know what's going on with Keith Lee, but he's sure enjoying his life with Mia Yim at home. I'm just saying. Yeah. I want to see Keith Lee as good as anybody else. And if he's hurt, get better. We want to see him back. But if the thing is we don't have anything for him for some reason and I can write out my contract.
I would rather you not run him ragged with nothing.
Yeah.
And let him just do what he's got to do than, keep him in a position where he's just wearing himself down and getting beat up for nothing.
But the same people that would be annoyed at a wrestler because they're not doing anything, but they are taking a contract and taking a payment, are the same people that would be annoyed for what happened to the guys after WCW went under. I mean, Sting and Hogan and Goldberg, like the invasion didn't work because you didn't have the people that people made up WCW.
That people wanted, right?
Well, yeah, because they weren't going to buy out those contracts.
Right.
I mean, why wouldn't Sting in his late 40s stay at home and make 7 figures?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Well, and you had like the Radicals, which
they took a pay cut to go to WWE.
I'm on board with the Radicals, but the Radicals are not Sting.
Nope.
I'm sorry.
They weren't.
Should that be when we're doing the established facts? I want that to be the fact. The Radicals are not Sting.
The Radicals are not Sting.
That is your fact.
That's it.
We have a 3 count.
We have a 3 count. Yeah.
It's true. But I still want that as a fact. Okay. It's so true. Anyway,
we're just going to open our next established facts episode. Just so you guys know,
the Radicals
are not Sting.
Not Sting.
That's right. And they're also not the Outsiders.
No, they aren't. Because they're another guy. Like, what's the point? Why wouldn't it? And I think the same thing. I'm going to quote Brian Alvarez a little bit. So Wrestling Observer Radio, check them out as well. Brian Alvarez, Dave Meltzer, there are lots of opinions that they have, I'm sure. But Brian Alvarez was
not short on opinions.
Was announcing about that Dave Meltzer had found out that Samoa Joe was coming back to NXT. And somebody in the Twitch stream, when they were going live, made the statement that that's a bad business decision for Samoa Joe. And Brian Alvarez is like, why is that a bad business decision? Because...
Why?
That he decided to go back to a place that might fire him. Anywhere he goes to work might fire him. Why does it matter if it's WWE or AEW or whatever?
They're offering him something right now versus him having to wait 90 days before he can work anywhere.
Right.
Exactly.
And now he has to go through the process of trying to find somewhere.
Right.
Versus just taking what's literally right in your face.
Right.
Yeah. There's not we as people, as fans, can disagree. But in the end, these wrestlers are going to decide what's best for themselves.
Yeah.
Our stance here is that we believe WWE did what was best for their pockets
100%.
and not what was best for the wrestlers. And I struggle with that.
Yeah.
Or even what was best for the show or the business.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to say. I don't know if this was really best for... Now, pocketbook is one thing. I'm talking business as a whole. I'm talking your long-term game plan. And it doesn't seem, at least on Raw. SmackDown, on the other hand, is a different story.
Well, I think
Raw, is there any long-term game plan?
I think now we're getting into a different discussion, particularly talking about...
But it spins off into this because if you don't have a plan for Braun Strowman, well, yeah, you're going to fire him.
That's because
you don't got a plan.
But the same side of that could be they have a ton of plans for other people, whether you agree with those plans or not. The fact
that it felt like they dropped him like the hottest potato on the planet. Here's stuff. Bye.
Yeah.
Here's your suitcase. See ya.
True.
I'm like,
yeah, and I think that a big portion of our dissatisfaction comes to, I won't say less. A big portion of our frustration with this has a lot to do with the fact that outside of budget cuts, there is no explanation.
Right.
If they said, well, budget cuts is why we got rid of Braun. Okay. He has a 7-figure contract. That makes sense. Budget cuts is why we got rid of Ruby Riott. That's not really believable.
unlikely.
I highly doubt she was making
Highly
even
unlikely.
above $500,000.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you can't say it wasn't because of her skill set.
Right. But I would even go as far as to say that with Aleister Black.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
Like that dude, I love Aleister Black, but currently he's a mid-carder. He's
Yeah.
a great mid-carder.
Yes.
He deserves to be on the top of the freaking bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
As a mid-carder, yeah.
he's a mid-carder.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Cool.
it can't be for
But-
budget cuts for that.
Right.
What?
Budget cuts and no storyline. Sorry, those don't work.
No.
Nope.
And
He's got
especially
both.
with budget cuts, no storyline, and then all of a sudden, well, Vince might want him back. Okay. So then who's actually making those decisions?
Exactly. And that's the discussion. I would love to hear Brian Alvarez or someone tell me who's then really making the shot. Is it the other con?
The Nick Khan.
The other con man? Oh, did I say that out loud?
Great promo by Tony Khan mocking Nick Khan.
It was. And well, if Nick Khan's over here doing this, then maybe we got back to the VP of corporate communications people. I'm just saying.
True. I think in the end, I really hope that a lot of these wrestlers land on their feet. They will land on their feet.
We hope they all do. Not all of them. We hope they all do.
Right. There's a ton of work out there as things start to open back up and the world kind of gets back to normal. I mean, AEW has 4 shows they're taping for, but they also have an overloaded roster. And Impact has their 2-hour show every week. Ring of Honor is starting to kick things back up. GCW
AEW has an overloaded roster? Then what the flip is WWE's?
No, I know that WWE's is as well.
Oh, would you like to know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, if AEW's overloaded roster, can we please make sure we talk about the elephant in the room of WWE's roster?
So Impact
just saying
has an active roster currently, at least from the information that I can find, of 57 different wrestlers. That is men and women.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I didn't think it was that many.
AEW is 77. WWE is 207.
So let's have a discussion about an overloaded.
That is, I would say that is about 90 to 95% accurate to their current number, but it's at least 200.
So let's talk about AEW?
Right, that's Raw, SmackDown, and NXT rosters.
Yeah, which Raw, SmackDown, NXT, 205 Live, main event. Those are all the hours of programming that WWE has to land.
But they only have 3 rosters that they run out of.
Right.
So a third of their roster.
200.
A third of their roster would match what TNA does. A third.
Impact.
Sorry. AEW. Well, no. Well, AEW's at 77. Yeah, it would.
Yeah.
70.
Well, and the reason why AEW's roster
overloaded.
Well, the reason why it seems overloaded is because they only have Dynamite.
They have
on
one show
TV.
right now. They have one.
They
show
have
right
Dark,
now.
and they have Dark Elevation on YouTube, which I highly recommend you check out.
They
even
are
if it's just to see
awesome.
those things. They're a lot of fun.
They are awesome.
And Rampage is coming August 13th, I believe. I think they're doing in Pittsburgh, which is great as long as they keep the title on Britt Baker, so we get Pittsburgh with the Women's Championship. It's going to be fantastic. That's her hometown, by the way.
That'd be amazing.
But when you only have 2 hours, you can't put 77 people on 2 hours of television.
That's true. But that's also, if you look at the way that they have structured their organization, that's why they're so heavy on stables.
Yes.
Because you can have the Dark Order, and they might have 20 people in the Dark Order, but the Dark Order works every week.
Pretty much, yeah.
You know what I mean? You can
even
have,
if they're not in the ring, they're at ringside.
Right,
They're doing
exactly.
some silly promo.
You
They're
can
hitting
have
somebody on the head with a kendo stick.
Exactly.
Whatever.
Exactly. You can have the Inner Circle. You can have, just
still got some screen time there.
Right.
So you remember them. Oh, hey, I remember blah. Now
Right.
you might not see him again for a few weeks. Okay, well then, but at least you're going to see him. As opposed to some of these wrestlers, you haven't seen them in years.
And you're also not talking about wrestling from, 40 years ago.
Right.
When you had the Four Horsemen and maybe Arn was the only one working.
Right.
Or Rick was the only one working.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you'd have one night and they were the only ones working. Or maybe all 4 of them were working that night, but they were the only stable. Like, and you had a roster of 20 people.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
it's a different
you're talking about a much different situation because you're also trying to... The other draw is you're trying to find a connection with every audience member you can.
Yes.
So if Colt Cabana is your flavor, Dark Order.
Right.
Cool. If Chris Jericho is your flavor, Inner Circle.
You're going to do Inner Circle. If
You know what I
MJF's
mean? Like,
your flavor, then now you're Pinnacle. And
right.
You get,
so you find those connections as an audience member, and I think that works.
Yes.
I think that works.
But you had to have an alert writing team
right.
who's writing that sharp and that clean and that focused, which can be, I'm saying this because I'm not a writer. That can be very hard to do. But at this level, I mean, if you're at a WWE, AEW level, then I'm assuming that's why you're getting hired, is because you're able to write and that.
You're talking about multi-million-dollar companies that should have a handle on A, their roster, B, the storylines that they're working with people in, and C, I feel like there is a level of executive abuse sometimes, and I know that that's maybe a hard word, but what I mean by that is when you get a report that Vince showed up 3 hours before Raw starts and he hated the script and they tore it up and now you have to start from scratch. And so you have 3 weeks of the exact same matches over and over and over again. Well, yeah, it's no wonder that you want to get rid of people on your roster that aren't working because you're not using them.
You're not using them because you
don't find
it.
You don't find, and here's my tipping point. The reason that these people no longer have a contract with WWE is because WWE did not find value in those people being on their roster, and that's really what bothers me.
Yes.
Because when you look at somebody
I
like,
agree.
and I'm a mark for Ruby Riott, so I'm going to use her. When you look at somebody like Ruby Riott, who worked indies in the Midwest, she's from Indiana, grew up in Elkhart,
Hey, that's
trained
my
in
mom's hometown.
trained in Lafayette with Billy Rock at House of Rock, I think it's the name of the School of Rock.
School of Rock.
Wrestling school up in Lafayette, which is why she's billed from Lafayette, by the way.
Okay.
As Heidi Lovelace, fantastic talent, killer on the mic, fantastic in the ring, and you don't value her. Not only do you not value her, but you also don't value the organization that you put her together in.
Yeah, the
because
Riot Squad.
you built her and Sarah Logan and Liv Morgan as the Riot Squad.
Right.
You put them together the same night that you brought out. They were called Fire and Desire. Mandy Rose and she's a GM now for sort of SmackDown.
Legal, yeah.
Gosh darn it. But yeah, those two tag teams debuted on the same SmackDown. Mm-hmm. You put these together. And you don't want to use them?
Right.
You decided that you wanted to negotiate these contracts.
Yeah.
And you don't want to use them? They're sitting around...
Sonya Deville.
Sonya Deville, thank you. I knew it was a D last name.
Exactly.
I just could not remember what it was.
I was doing the same thing. It was a D. Okay.
So yeah, I think that's, for me, as somebody who covets is probably the wrong word, as someone who desires having good, well-established relationships with people, including those people that are not actually a part of my connected life, I still have invested time in being a fan of these people.
Yes.
And
if
as
we
a
find
passionate
value.
wrestling fan, it hurts my feelings when their lives and physical health is not valued to the degree in which it should be because of budget cuts.
Yeah.
And that's really what inflames me. That's really what I get hot-headed about, because I'm like, you have guys like Daniel Bryan that you let walk out the door.
Yes.
Because, well, Daniel Bryan might be a different case because he's got a beautiful family, and
he might have just decided to walk out the door.
Yeah, and he
has a right to walk out the door if he
He
wants
and
to.
Edge got their redemption stories with being laid up with, career-ending,
not threatening, ending,
career-ending injuries, and then being able to come back and headline.
Yeah.
And that's incredible.
Yeah.
That is an incredible story. And you know what? If Edge and Daniel Bryan decide that they're done, that's okay, because they deserve that.
Yes.
They deserve, those two guys specifically, because that's just who I'm talking about right now, deserve to be able to go out on their terms.
Yeah.
Yes. I concur.
But then you have people like Aleister Black who don't get an opportunity to do that. Braun Strowman, who doesn't get an opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
At least not yet.
Not yet. But
Which is why the Christian Cage signing on AEW was such a big deal.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome.
I mean, him showing up at the Rumble, it still cannot believe that WWE didn't take advantage of that. But on the same note, I'm excited he's over there.
Yeah.
He and Matt Hardy are going to have an excellent storyline. He's already helped the likes of Jungle Boy.
Yeah.
My goodness, has he helped Jungle Boy?
Yes.
Just that he's going to get
phenomenal.
to be Christian Cage exactly as he wants to and perform at the level he wants to perform, even if it's in the AEW ring. That's fantastic. That, by the way, Ruby Riott is now known as Ruby Soho. She just got her new name put together. She's not taking the Heidi Lovelace name because that was a name given to her in a backyard wrestling promotion, and she didn't dislike it, but she wanted to make a name for herself.
Good.
So she is Ruby Soho.
Ruby Soho. Good. Okay. All right. Well, we're looking to see where Ruby Soho lands. I know Dawn is, because Dawn is an enormous fan.
If AEW doesn't pick her up as a woman's talent, I think
without what I said.
they have missed a phenomenal opportunity.
Well, see, because
especially because
that's Tony Khan knocking on her door.
I follow all of them on social media, on Instagram at least, and like Sarah Logan, even taking care of new baby. I mean, she's working out in her home gym, and she posts all kinds of stuff on her Instagram about her workouts and stuff like that. And like Eric's really helping her out, getting back into really good shape. I mean, I'm just saying.
I was glad to see them back on Raw, Eric and Ivar.
Yeah, that was good. Even with the Omos thing.
Yeah.
But it was still good. It was still really good to see them. And they're gonna push AJ and Omos to the moon.
They should. It's a good act.
I agree with you.
Are they though? Because they were gone like after WrestleMania. There was like nothing.
I think
and
that
then they popped back, and I'm like, what's
I think that they
again?
may have gotten. I think one of them may have gotten
a little beat up,
sick or a little beat up or something, and they
okay.
just needed to take some time off. I don't know. I don't think that there's any even speculation really, but the fact that they're back,
now I'm scared.
Yeah, the fact that they're back, they're not. I would be shocked out of my mind. Of course, they did get rid of Braun, but I would be shocked out of my mind for them to do anything like that to AJ Styles. Because that dude is the face that runs the place.
He is money.
He's
the Midas.
If you've not seen the AJ Styles and Roman Reigns stuff that happened after AJ debuted,
oh my gosh!
If you're wondering what made people think Roman Reigns should be at the top, those matches helped.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And the other thing that helped, Paul Heyman.
Paul flipping Heyman.
And now that dude is on fire.
So that's the stuff I want. Like, I want us to be clear about what this was kind of a negatively toned message. We're gonna have those. This is what we're just conversing about, the things we talk about regularly.
This is what we're passionate about. We know that you guys are passionate about it too. We hope that
we talk about this anyway. We just have mics in front of us.
We
now.
hope that you share some of these feelings and ideas, and if not, we want to know.
Yeah.
We want to hear about that. We want to see that you guys have your own passions and you know what? If you really like the storyline with Shayna Baszler and Alexa Bliss, let's hear about it.
Can you tell me why? That's all I ask.
That's a conversation for a different time.
I can give one thing that I'm finding. I give one thing why people can enjoy it, because Alexa Bliss is enjoying it.
That's true.
And in the end,
she finds value in it. She's having fun. And in the end, if Nikki Cross, the superhero, does not go against her as a supervillain, they are losing an opportunity.
I'm so for Nikki Cross being a superhero.
I love it. I think it's great. It's so. It reminded me so much.
The Fiend is.
It reminded me. Well,
I want a sign that said, "Where'd the Fiend go?"
So
we don't even know. Can I?
Nope. I'm gonna save it for a next conversation, because it will turn into something completely different.
Yeah, because here we are at almost 50 minutes again.
Yeah, that's all right.
So yep, that's good stuff.
This is what we love. This is what we're passionate about. We hope you are too.
Did you manage to get a 2 in there? Because I see you've been writing down your 3 count.
I got 2, and I was trying to come up with a third one. I think there's one there, but I wanted to see if you guys had a good one for the 3 count.
You know what? I do have one.
Go for it.
I do have one.
I'll give you number 2.
Yes.
I'll let you do number 2.
Say, does he get number 2?
So, as you hopefully know by now, we on our Established Facts Gaming podcast, we establish a fact. We review the old fact. On the stable, we have a 3 count. So we are going to go over our 3 count. The first for our 3 count is as follows: the Radicals are not Sting.
One.
That's right.
Lack of storylines are not an excuse for poor budget decisions.
2.
And I am now applying for the VP of Communications. 3.
Yep.
All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us on The Stable. We love you all, and we will check you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Deuces.